everybody, and welcome to the 6 in our Narcissism Expert Series interviews that we're doing around the topic, clearly, of narcissism. Tonight you've got a real treat. My sister is going to be joining us, and she is a body-mind integration expert. She has spent the last few decades figuring out how the body works the most efficiently, how to get your brain and your body moving in the same direction. Because when you are, thinking one way, hey, Masara, nice to see you. And my sister's here too. Awesome. So let's get my sister added. Masara, you'll get to see my sister. How exciting. There she is.
Yay!
Hi. So everybody, you're in for a treat tonight. My sister's body-mind integration expert. She's spent the last couple decades really studying this stuff. It started because we both had to go, work through our own issues with narcissists in our lives. And in doing so, we each took our separate paths. She took the path of more of the science-based, of figuring out how does the nervous system work, how does the brain get online, how do we clean things up so we don't feel so conflicted inside and so out of joint. And then I went the direction more of Asian medicine and spirituality. So it's a really fun mixture that we have tonight between her and I as we talk about narcissists and as we talk about a lot of the tools that you can use to stay balanced. Because one of the biggest challenges is narcissists will exhaust you with the intensity of their energy, with their anger, with their mood swings, with their verbal repartee. And if you are not integrated, then you've got one part of your body saying one thing. Let's say your mind saying one thing, your heart saying a different thing, your gut saying something else, and you're wasting all of this energy when you could be using it to stand up for yourself, when you could be using it to look for a new job, or you could be using it, to slam the door and walk away, whatever it may be. But when we're conflicted, when we're not integrated, kind of like, where you take the bundle of sticks, and if you, break one stick, you can break it. But if you put them in a bundle, then you can't break it. It's the same thing with the body and the mind and the nervous system and all the different systems. When you get them into alignment, when you get them integrated, it means you've got this strong bundle that cannot be broken. But if you're piecemeal, with your brain over here and your heart over there and your gut there and your nervous system, off in the far reaches of space, if that's what's going on, then you're easy to exhaust and destroy and wear out. And then the narcissist wins. They get in there and they, and they're able to chip you apart. But that's not what we're here to do tonight. Nope. We're here to help you figure out how to get everything aligned so that you're that big bundle of sticks that laughs in the face of danger. Danger is your middle name. So, okay, so Jeanné, who are you and what are you doing here on this live stream tonight?
Well, my name is Jeanné Aken, and I am here because my wonderful sister invited me here. And tonight we're going to talk about some of the things that I've been researching and doing for the last 20 some odd years. As Rita said, we grew up having a lot of challenges. And when I went to college, I was very thankful to start off it in Taekwondo. And there I learned some breathing things, and I learned just the movement just helped so much. And now, years later, when I became a school district librarian, I've taken more classes and I found out why the breathing and the movement works. And a lot of that comes down to developmental reflexes. There's like Rita said, there's lots.
Wait a second. What are developmental reflexes?
So if you've ever watched a baby, they have these ingrained patterns that they know how to do. When the baby is first born, their first you see them all wiggly wobbly. And that's one of the first things that they
is that a technical term?
Movements, right? They figuring out, hey, what is that all about? Oh, they look around, they use their mouth for sucking. Those are some of the very first developmental layers, if you will, like a pyramid, like getting those base layers down. And the more you can get those base layers down, I like to do it through movement, but there's lots of different ways to do so. The more that you can integrate those patterns, the more stable foundation you have, that more of that bundle.
So, okay, I have a quick question.
Of course.
So you want to get all these reflexes, you know, working together.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they work together just naturally? Why aren't babies born and they just, you know, grow like flowers?
They do some of it, but a lot of times we don't have enough practice at one of the patterns before stress or something else moves us on to another, or lack of movement. I see a lot of babies nowadays not having a lot of time to crawl around and move and stretch on their own. They're, for our convenience as adults, are put into baby carriers, and we know why they need to have them. I'm not saying never use them, but a lot of people are just setting the kids in there and leaving them, and they don't have that freedom to move about as much as we need. Like anything you learn, a lot of times it takes many repetitions to really get it integrated. And even if it is integrated at one point in life, stress can throw you off balance. Stress that comes from anything, a horrible job, the narcissist, the topic that we're talking about tonight, a fight, an accident, a fall, being scared, all of that.
But how does that do that? I really don't understand how we have these reflexes when we're babies.
Yep.
You know, and by moving around and wiggling around, that they get stronger and they get built better. Mm-hmm. How does stress knock them off balance? I mean, what's happening?
Okay, so these patterns, these movement patterns, are actually building the neural networks in the brain, right? Every time you move, every time you speak, all of your interactions, everything, all of your waking moments, all of your life, you're building different networks, right? So you'll build different networks if you just sit and stare at the television. You'll build different networks if you go out for a walk outside. You'll have different experiences coming in. The more senses you use, the more different neural networks you have all the way across your brain. Now,
so what does that have to do with the big term neuroplasticity that's been running around?
Okay, neuroplasticity basically means that your brain is moldable. Several years ago, they thought that once you were born with X number of brain cells, that was it. You were never going to get another one. Your brain was never going to regenerate or renew. But we now know that that's not the case. You are renewing all the time. You can learn new patterns all the time. You can.
So if you're somebody who's, let's say, your pattern has always been to back down mm-hmm. when someone comes at you in a conflict, mm-hmm. you can literally, your brain is plastic enough that you can learn a new pattern, and you can learn maybe how to stand up for yourself or walk out or speak your truth.
Exactly. And the very first time, it's probably not going to be really easy because you've so ingrained that pattern. It's almost like, how many times have you walked down this road and now there's a rut? I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm saying it may take bravery. It may take strength and courage. It may take the help of friends. It may take movement or lots of different things to help you start making a new pattern. It's not to say sometimes you're walking down this pattern and oops, I fell back in, but you know that you're starting to build this road over here, this new habit, and the more you do it, the easier it will become.
So can you let's say I'm too scared to stand up to a narcissist, but I want my brain to start building that pattern. I want them to start, making those connections. Can you do movements? Can you do visualization? What can you do that can start to develop those new pathways in the brain until it becomes so familiar that it's no big deal that you tell a narcissist that, here's my boundary. This is what I'll accept and what I won't. So how can you start rewiring it if you're not quite ready to stand up and be counted?
You practice in ways that are not as threatening. One of the key things that you just mentioned is visualization. Visualization is very, very helpful in really imagining yourself going through the situation and what could you say or would you say, or having a replay. A lot of us do it after the event. Oh my gosh, I should have done this, I should have done that. Okay, well then take a moment, say, okay, next time I will, instead of, oh, I should have, this was wrong, I was all wrong. Oh, well, that was one possibility. One part of it is not beating yourself up over it. And then saying, okay, well, maybe I could do this next time. Finding a safe buddy to practice, to role play is a possibility. Writing out, what would I like to say? How do I want to feel? And then, yes, depending on the situation, there are different movements to help link up the brain so you have everything connected, not only your head brain, but your heart brain and your gut brain, getting yourself in a good position. Because when you're like already scared and you have to like try this new thing or go down this path that you're not really sure how it's going to go, then it's so much easier if you start from a place of strength. So getting yourself calm and centered, and if it's blowing up, that's not the time to try something new.
So you started on this path of really strengthening your body, which then also strengthened your brain, it sounds like, by getting different movements and different patterns. And you really started on that path when you started to do Taekwondo, right?
Yes. And then I got my first teaching job, and I went away and I worked with children, and I saw them struggling. And when I came back and I was teaching here, on my first healing modality, if you want to call it that, was Brain Gym. And Brain Gym was founded by Paul Dennison, who is a reading teacher, who realized that if he had kids do movement before they read a lot easier. And the movement was hooking up the brain. So when I'm talking about hooking up the brain, I'm talking about 3 different levels of brain. You've got the front of your brain hooking up to the back of your brain, getting this connection created and centered. I'm also talking about the top of the brain and your base of your brain. The top of your brain being your thinking brain, the base being like your survival mode of what do you do under stress. And then you also have the left and the right hemisphere. Now the left hemisphere is primarily known for more logical thinking. The right hemisphere is more of that creative, overall gestalt. It's the flow, whereas the left brain is like the notes, like here's a B flat and then a C and a D. The right brain is more the flow of the music. The left brain is the rhythm, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The right brain is all of that together. Left brain would be letters in a word. Right brain would be reading the whole paragraph. So when I say hooking up the brain, I really want to make sure that all of this brain is connected. Now, the left brain and the right brain are joined by a bridge called the corpus callosum. And the corpus callosum, when we're under stress, it blows up. It all of a sudden, I don't know what to do. And then you're stuck in only using half of your gifts, half of your resources, the path that you always go down. And so Brain Gym really taught me, okay, let's get out of fight or flight. Let's rebuild that corpus callosum. So we've got both the thinking both thinking brain, just details, and big picture brain going. Let's not get stuck so far in survival in our lower brain. Let's see if we can bring it up to the thinking brain, and let's get the front and our back brain, the movement and the thinking all combined.
So let's put this in terms that somebody, you know, walking down the street can use. So let's say you need to go ask your narcissistic boss for a raise. Would you then do movement, you know, for a week ahead of time, a specific movement that would connect all the different parts of your brain so that you don't end up like totally freaking out and crying in front of them and then running away? You know, so you can actually do movement that will keep you feeling strong and grounded and standing up for yourself and not feeling as anxious or insecure. Is that on point?
Exactly. And the thing is, it's not the same for everybody. So what I might do might not be what you would do. And so,
well, how do you know the difference? How do you know what you should do versus what I should do?
Well, we look at the menu and we ask your body. We ask your body's wisdom of what we should, what movements would be best to do this with. What movements would be best to get you in the best place we can. And normally it only takes 5 minutes. I see that a bunch of my library people, library connections are watching, and they've seen me do this.
Awesome.
They've seen me stand up in front of a classroom of kids to get them ready to learn. And almost all of the time, I will do something called pace, and then I'll throw in an extra movement or two based on what I'm seeing throughout the room. So pace is a very simple 4-step process to help get you calm and centered, ready to go into, so you make sure you're centered before you go into a stressful situation. So
let's say you're driving home. Yep. And you know that your narcissistic husband is going to be there, and he will probably be volatile, and you know it's going to be uncomfortable. So what can you do, let's say, on the drive home? How do you do pace on the drive home, or, you know, right as you're going from the building to your car? What can you do on that little bit of time to get yourself get yourself stronger so that when you walk in, they don't, you know, unsettle you as much as they could?
Sure. Actually, I do some of these while I'm driving my car. Some of them are not practical and really unsafe to do while driving.
Easy. But what the hell? Let's do it anyways, right?
Some of them have modifications. Step 1, drink water. 75% of us walk around dehydrated all the time. At any one point in time, you pick 4 people in a room, 3 of them are probably dehydrated. And so having a sip of water. Now, just like, you know, you go away on vacation and you water your plants, glug, 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 glug. If you
just like that, do you make the sound effect when you do that?
I come back and I water them and all the water runs out, right? But if you a little sip of water, it stays in there. And then the next day you give them a little sip of water to reacclimate them to, oh yes, I really will water you. I won't leave you for weeks on time with
You know, I had a friend who told me this, you know, because I've always struggled with eating at, you know, at regular times. And they said, if you feed your body around the same time every day, then your body starts to get stronger because it recognizes, it doesn't get freaked out thinking you're not going to feed it.
Right.
It's not going to be like, well, I don't know whether we're going to eat today or not. You know, instead it's getting it to trust you that you're actually going to nourish it enough to take care of it. And that can dial down stress, right?
Yes. Yes.
Good to know. I'm glad there's some science to back that up.
Definitely. So having a sip of water, swishing it around your mouth, not just hastily chugging it, but if you swish it around your mouth, it sends that signal to your body like, oh, she's giving me yeah, I'm getting what I need. This is great. Oh, what was that? Oh, I have to do something with it now. What? So if you sit and you swish it around a little bit, it actually gives your body time to recognize that, oh yeah. And did you know water is one of the very few substances that just by swishing it around your mouth, you don't even have to swallow it for it to start to help you out. It will go through
Seriously?
the membrane. Yeah, it will go through the membrane of your mouth. The molecules are small enough and it can start to help you immediately.
So you sort of have like a party with your water. That you take your water,
yeah,
and you sip it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And just doing that, making it into a fun little time. Well, one, that's kind of cool. You know, that's a mindfulness practice. A mindfulness practice of drinking water is to swish it around your mouth.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, so we're taking our sip of water on the way home.
Yes. So that's step one. PACE is an acronym. E is for energetic. Drinking a little bit of water gives you some energy. Okay. The C, connectedness.
Are you going backwards then? ECAP?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. You climb, they call it climbing the PACE ladder.
Okay. Okay.
So we've
climbing the ECAP ladder.
Now we're going to go to C. Okay.
Okay.
Next. This is one that you need two hands. So park the car first.
Okay. So like at a stoplight.
At a stoplight, you can do this. You put one hand on your belly button. Your belly button is a huge center of electromagnetic energy. Think about it. It's your connection. It's your first connection to the world. You get so much information from your navel. So you're just going to put one hand on your navel. The other hand, you're going to make a C with your hand, and you're going to put right below your collarbones. Mm-hmm. Now,
okay.
Gently.
So much I got my fingers shoved in my belly button.
No, I'm just put that hand on the belly button.
Okay, I can just put my hand there?
Yeah.
I'm sitting there thinking I'm poking my belly button.
Are in. You just have a flat hand resting over.
Okay. Okay, on top of my belly button, my electromagnetic vortex.
Yes.
Okay, and then my C on my collarbone.
So if you see these two bones, if you go right below them, there's a little dip. And that actually, if we're going to talk in acupuncture world, that's actually kidney 27. It's the 27th point on the kidney meridian there. So some people like to tap them. Some people like to rub them. If they're tender, you know that it could really help you out by rubbing them, or you could just set them there. Because sometimes, you know, if you're sitting in your car at a stoplight, people might look at you. We're like, what in the world are you doing? So do whichever you feel best with that. That's the basic second move. That's
okay. So drink some water and have a party in your mouth.
Yep.
And then your belly button and your collarbone.
Yes.
Now, why are you touching them at the same time? What does this do?
Think about all of the wonderful organs that are in between both of your hands. You've got your you've got your digestion, you've got your lungs, you've got your heart, you've got your spleen, you've got all your good things. And what you're doing is it's like plugging in, right? It's really plugging in all of this to remind yourself this major axis through your body. You know, if we were doing this on the backside, it would be your spine. All of the major organs that are sort of getting just a nice little energy bath together, reminding your body, hey, this is my right side, this is my left side, this is my top, this is my bottom. And what's reflected in your body reflects in your brain. So just by doing this, you're connecting the top half to the bottom half. You're also
really
the right half to the left half. Yeah.
I suppose if you think about it like that, that's true. It's why, like in yoga, they have you you know, make sure that you do both sides and you do things to cross in order to get your brain to communicate with each other. And when you touch both sides and you're activating two spots at the same time, it connects them too. I mean, there ends up with this this energetic connection between the two, and like they start to work together.
Yeah.
You know, I had I was working with a really neat woman who does what does she do? She does body talk as well. And she was talking about how she every morning does this little exercise to connect her brain with her heart brain to her digestive brain.
Yep.
And so she taps both sides of her head at the same time and says to herself, I'm connecting my brain to my heart brain to my gut brain. And then she does that with her heart. And then she does that with her gut. And she does that like twice in order to get those different brains energetically connected. So what you're saying is when you do that, it's also connecting the different parts of the brain too.
Sure.
So the parts of the brain that are associated with the digestion, and the parts of the brain that are associated with the heart, and the parts of the brain that are associated with your head. Yep. Cool. Yep. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So E, energetic. We drunk some water. C, connect. We've done brain buttons. Now comes the active part.
Okay.
And it's a cross-lateral movement. And you go, what? What's that? And it's sort of hard to do sitting down. But if you think about it, you do this when you're naturally walking all the time. You swing your right hand forward and your left foot goes forward. And then when you take the next step, your left hand and your right foot. So you want this cross-lateral. To do it sitting, you can take your right hand and bring it over to your left knee, and then take your left hand over to your right knee. So you can do this sitting. It's a little bit difficult. Normally when I'm doing this with my students, we're all up and we're all doing big body because we need big body when we're kids.
Okay, so when we're driving home,
yes,
and we're waiting for the toxic individual who's ready to be cranky with us for no fault of our own, just because they're in a bad mood.
Yep.
You would drink some water and swish it around in your mouth.
Yep.
You know, so keep your water bottle there, and then you would connect the collarbones and your belly button.
Yep.
And you get that connected. And then you would cross your hands, your right hand to your left knee and your left hand to your right knee.
Yep.
And move your body a little bit while you're at the stoplight.
Yep. Yep.
On your way home.
Yep.
Okay. So far, so good.
Okay. And the last one, you really do have to stop the car. Okay. This one is really powerful. If you've heard of the Heart Math Institute, they've done studies about brain coherence. And within 2 minutes, brain coherence is they've looked at brain waves. And then say when you're under stress, your brain waves look like all jagged mess. What you want, especially going into a stressful situation, you want them to be much more like waves in the ocean, regular.
Okay.
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 And so this move, each of these moves do for like 30 minutes or 30 seconds to a minute. This one up to 2 minutes. You'll feel a shift when it's finished. So you want to cross your lower half. For some people, this just means taking your right ankle, putting it over your left. Okay. So cross something on your lower half. This could be done standing, this could be done sitting, it could be done lying down. If I can't sleep at night, I'll do as much of this as possible. Now I'm going to teach you a modification because this is very hard to, you know, the screen is not allowing me to show you really full body how to do this. But the idea is you cross on the lower half and you cross at the upper half. And now you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, and you take and you deep breathe. You can close your mouth.
Oh.
You just relax and deep breathe.
So let's say your coworker comes into your office and wants to hijack you into doing some of their work. You know, one of my tools is I'll say, "Excuse me, I need to go to the bathroom." You know, before they really get into it, I go, wait, I'll be right back. I need to go to the bathroom. And then in the bathroom,
you can do all of it.
You know, you can drink your water, you can touch your navel and your collarbone, you can cross the right and left sides. And then what was this last? Oh, this last one was cross the bottom half, cross the top half, and take some deep breaths.
Yep. Tongue is up as well. Now,
oh, and the tongue on your roof.
Yep, tongue on the roof of the mouth. If you think about it, babies, to self-soothe, take their thumbs and they push the roof of your mouth. Oh. You are actually hitting that emotional brain through the roof of your mouth. So when you put the tongue up there, it's actually making a circuit. And so you're crossing the bottom half and you're crossing the top half. You're connecting the top and the bottom half of your brain. You're crossing left and right in two places. You're getting the right side and the left side. You're putting your tongue up, and that's connecting the front and the back. You are connecting all parts of the brain. And this is why it is such a powerful technique, and it can really calm you down. Now, the name was given back in the 80s, and it was called hook up. It does not have the same connotation. In the 80s, it really meant hooking up all the different parts of the brain. It did not mean what teenagers or young adults think of today when they say, let's hook up.
Okay, so it's hooking up the different parts of the body.
The body and the brain, yep.
And if you do that, it helps get you into a more integrated level state of mind.
Yeah.
So that you can handle any of the toxic energy that comes your way.
Exactly.
Now, I was talking to, as I said, my friend the other day who does brain gym. And one of the things she said was when you take 3 deep breaths, every time you take a deep breath, your body it tells your body and your mind to scan your body and see what's kind of out of whack, and then to maybe bring it back into balance. So a benefit of taking those 3 full breaths when you do all the crossing things. Hey, Steve's cousin Scott is on. Hi, Scott. So one of the benefits of then taking those 3 deep breaths is that it tells your body to scan where there might be problems or inflammation or blockages, and it sends resources to those. So breathing's like, you know, the little hand scanner on Star Trek or something, where they, you know, put it over you and figure out what your problem is. And that's what breathing is. That's so cool. Now, I have a question about the whole tongue to the roof of the mouth and the emotion brain. I didn't know about that. Tell me a little bit about what the emotion brain is, or what any of that is.
Okay. In brain gym, they teach that this is an old brain model. Again, we're talking about it was developed in the 80s, but it is useful in some benefits, in that there's like 3 different parts of your brain. You've got the brain, what's called the reptilian brain, or the early brain, that is all responsible for our fight or flight. It's there to keep us alive. It will do whatever it has to keep us alive. That's your fight, your flight, your breathing, all of that stuff that you don't think about. Oh, I have to take a breath. Oh, I'm blinking. Oh, my dinner is digesting. All of that stuff is the reptilian brain.
Okay.
And then you have the emotional brain. And that brain is, in body talk, we'd say the emotional brain is here, but we're talking, in brain gym, we're talking the next level up. How do we show love? How do we show compassion? How do we show caring? And those emotions then can also, it's the negative emotions as well. but our emotional brain then influences a lot of what we do. We are often hijacked.
So I always thought that, you know, as you just said, that the emotions were coming from more of the heart level. You're saying the brain has responsibility for emotions too?
Yes, some different societies throughout the world put the responsibility for emotions in different places. But the midbrain sits right above your hard and soft palate.
Okay.
And that midbrain has, it's been a while since I looked at the structure of the brain. Right now, I can't remember exactly the specific scientific name that sits right above there that,
don't worry about it. Yeah. So when you put your tongue to the roof of your mouth, you're like poking your emotional brain and telling it to wake up. Is that what's going on?
Not necessarily wake up, but become centered. If we talked just a little bit about meridians before, if you think about the Chinese philosophy of it, if you put the tongue to the tip of your mouth, you are then connecting both the meridians that start and stop here. You've got one major meridian that comes up the back and stops right here. You've got one major meridian that starts at the pubic bone and comes and ends up here. Now, if you take your tongue, then you're connecting both of them and you're getting that flowing, as opposed to start, stop. In Brain Gym, I was taught that it's a very calming thing for the emotional brain to put your tongue up.
Well, I always notice when I'm focusing on something that I don't take the tip of my tongue, but it's almost like I put the whole of my tongue onto the roof of my mouth. You know, and I'll catch myself doing that. So do you think I do that as a natural reflex to calm my emotional brain down?
Remember when we talked about the infant developmental reflex patterns, those patterns that mouth movements in general is a signal of a coping mechanism. You do that in order to help yourself, and you've learned to do that, but it's excess energy. You're of an age, you remember Michael Jordan, right?
Sure.
Every time he would palm the basketball to go make his slam dunk, he was known for his tongue sticking way outside of his mouth. That.
Right.
There's a developmental reflex that if you push there, the tongue goes out. So he was using more energy than what he needed to in order to do that. It's a common, when you're thinking, you'll see people do mouth movements, or maybe they'll stick their tongue out. I find myself, when I'm stressed, I sort of like support myself by like pushing my tongue up to the top. And a lot of times those are signals actually of reflexes that are not integrated. They're coping.
Wow. I mean, how I don't understand how that would not be integrated, what that would mean.
So if I were to lift up my water, right? I want to lift up the water. If we take the viewpoint that we have a limited amount of energy, if I lift up my water, shall I do it with just my bicep? That would be pretty efficient. If I had to lift up my water by using my entire body, that's no longer very efficient. And so
now Feldenkrais would say the opposite. Feldenkrais would say you want to use as many different parts of your body as possible, so nothing has to work very hard, and so that it's more efficient when everything sort of works together, that you don't isolate a muscle, let's say the bicep, to drink the glass of water, but instead you use gravity and your breath and and your balance and your whole movement, so that it's effortless, so that nothing has to work very hard, because your whole body is working together to drink that glass of water.
But what does my big toe need? Why does my big toe need to grab if I am lifting up a glass of water? It's far away from the action.
Right, but
sitting down.
So it has its own part and piece, let's say, of balance, you know, so that you can lift your arm because your whole body's moving, your whole body's lifting and doing the work, like in a space of flow. Feldenkrais is all about, and he works with infants as well. It's all about how do we use our entire self to do a movement so that it's, we don't wear any one piece out, that we can keep going and moving forward and chugging along, because no one thing gets fatigued, because everything is assisting the process. Everything from gravity to our breath to our buttocks to where our toes are on the ground. They're all like a part of the flow.
I can see where you're going with this, and I can see that point of view. But you said some key words that don't necessarily fit with what I was talking about. You were saying flow and gravity and balance. I'm saying my toes curl up and tighten, don't help me balance, but for some reason I feel like I have to do that in order to, when I'm sitting, in order to lift my hand to my mouth. A friend of mine, I would hate to watch her take score when we play cards, because she, in order to write, she had to A, hunch over, B, she had to grab this pencil, she had to keep her tongue out, and it was so, I just watched her, and it looked like such tremendous effort, which is the opposite of what Feldenkrais is saying, that should be easy and flow, if I'm hearing you right.
Right, yeah. And but you still use your big toe. You just, it would mean that everything didn't have to work too hard.
Yes.
And you're saying that everything, for most people, is working way too hard, much harder than it needs to.
Yes. Yeah.
Got it. Because people feel that in order to think, you know,
and
they need to.
It's not a conscious thing, but all of a sudden I'll say, oh, well, why is my toe, I've come to notice some of my patterns, like, oh, why does my toe have to do that? You've noticed your patterns. Why do I have to, why is my mouth all weird? Why is my tongue around my mouth when I'm really thinking hard? Oh, it's a compensation. Can I let some of that go? Can I let it be easier? Can I let it flow a little bit more?
So how can you, when you're noticing that pattern, when you're noticing, let's say you're driving home to this stressful situation and you're starting to tense up and you're starting to think about it, and you're noticing your hands gripping the wheel, and you're noticing your back and everything else tighten up and use up all of this energy in order for you to even contemplate the stress you're going to be walking into. What can you do to stop working so hard, to help your body let go, so you don't have that reflex of tensing up and tightening everything up and scrunching your face? How can you start to let those reflexes go so more energy is available to stay calm and out of your fight and flight?
Right. Well, the first step is just noticing it. Right? Mm-hmm. Noticing is right. Deep breathing is good. If somebody's helped you identify a specific reflex pattern, there are specific movements. There are several different. There's 3 whole modalities that just deal with different ways of integrating each of these different developmental reflex patterns. There's games, there's movements, but if you're driving home and you realize yourself, you are tightening up, and you realize that you really want to go into this nice and calm, brain gym would have you do pace. Taekwondo would have you breathe. Finding your favorite way to calm down, whether it be essential oils. Maybe you have your little emergency pack of essential oils with you. I know I carry mine with me, and I've got a set at work. You've talked about different visualizations before. Well, it's really hard to do that while you're driving, but you know, the whole clench and release, bringing awareness, and oh, now can I bring awareness to relaxing that part, clenching and releasing different ones, playing music that you love helps as
so doing something that's kind of sensory based,
yeah,
will help keep everything grounded and balanced, especially things that use multiple senses at the same time.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, when I talked to, you know, as I said, when I talked to my friend yesterday who does body talk, she said, you know, that 3 full breaths is what will break the fight or flight. If you're starting to go into a fight or flight pattern, and you're noticing it, you're noticing yourself tensing up, those 3 deep breaths will keep you or help keep you out of going into that primal primitive place where you freak out and, you know, you just want to cry or something.
Right. So the hookups are really, really good for that. You started to do this a little bit before. Body Talk teaches a very simple technique called cortices, and it involves tapping those 3 places that you mentioned before. Would you like me to demonstrate it?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay, it's one of the few things that we're allowed to demonstrate because I'm not a certified trainer of Body Talk. I'm just a user of Body Talk. And so what, before I do this, the more that you can do for yourself, the better. The more that you can visit people like you for massages, the more that you can do balances, the more that you can set these mini balances. You set a little mini goal and you do movement, or you bring in other modalities to help get you closer to that goal. The more centered and calm and things that you've put into your life to keep you centered and calm, the less you will be pulled off center. If you're just walking on that little edge, it's real easy to fall over the edge. But if you're centered, oh, look, if I'm 10 miles away from the edge, it's very hard to fall off. If I consistently do practices to keep me centered, you're not walking that tightrope of falling off all the time. Okay, so
doing something like Taekwondo or Tai Chi or yoga as a regular daily practice helps keep all of your reflexes and different parts of your brain connected and working together, so you get less stressed out, and it's easier for you to stay in your logical, rational place instead of the place that makes you want to, you know, start swinging and throwing punches.
And from a heart-centered place as well, you know. Definitely. And it's all of those. It's the movement. It's for those of you who love to run or love to swim or love to bike, it's getting out in nature, grounding yourself, putting your feet on the ground, walking in the sunshine, doing those things that really bring you to playing music, singing. Everybody has their own special cocktail of things that bring them joy and bring them peace.
So that's kind of what hobbies are for. You know, that a lot of us think that hobbies are kind of a waste of time or a waste of energy, you know, so we don't do them. But hobbies like that help you live a happier and better life because you get less stressed out.
They do.
A lot of people, I think, get stuck because they think, oh, I need to do a yoga practice. And because, you know, I'm not willing to put that time in every day, that sounds like way too much work. They don't do anything at all. But that's not necessary, is it? I mean, you don't have to have a big practice. You can just do a couple things while you're laying in bed or driving the car or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's what got me stuck for a while before I got my yoga teacher certification. Is I thought yoga practice meant that I had to be on the mat for an hour every single day. And you know me, it's very hard for me to carve out an hour every single day. And so at least doing something, you know, while I'm brushing my teeth, can I do one pose on the right side and one pose on the left side? Okay. I did something while I'm waving to all the kids coming in. Can I really think about my posture in yoga? So even little micro things count. Even if you only do
so you don't have to have some elaborate practice or spiritual practice in order to, you know, connect with God and the universe and be stronger. You can instead just like cross your ankles and your arms while you're you know, waiting for the shower to get warm. Okay, so it's about doing little micro things as you go throughout your day, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a dedicated practice.
It adds up. The micro things add up. So if you don't think of, oh, the only time I have is between 4 and 5 in the morning in order to do this, there's micro minutes. There's a minute here and there throughout the day that actually adds up. And each little grain of sand helps. You know, each little grain of sand builds that sandcastle of calm and peace. Okay, cortices. So we're going to start by covering all parts of the head. So we're going to start way back here in the occiput. Okay, so we put one hand there, and then we take our hand and we just tap nice and gentle. Now we really want to make sure that we tap both sides, the left side and the right side of our head. And we just take it.
I feel like I should have a tinfoil hat. I'm going to talk to the aliens anytime soon.
Nope, just take an inhale, big inhale in and out. Then we're going to tap our heart. Inhale in and out. And like you said, the body is scanning. Oh, what needs to be connected? And then one more time, breathe in and out, and we're going to tap our belly area. That's our.
Now, if we do this for somebody else, let's say our kid, does it have the same effect?
Exactly. Yeah. There are.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be somebody doing it for themselves. They can also do it for somebody else. Let's say if they're on a table and you're doing energy work with somebody, or you're, you know, if your child's trying to go to sleep.
Oh, yes. Yes. This is very helpful for sleep. I've seen kids do it on adults. I've had adults do it for each other. It's very calming just to have, you know, have somebody do, either you tap or they hold, or you know, if somebody's doing it for me, I can hold and the other person could tap. You don't have to tap on the body. You know, our energy field sticks out and we can just tap in the energy field. You can tap in the front side, or you could tap on the back. I could hold this and, you know, somebody else could tap all these. Well, we've only covered one little portion of our brain. We've got the right, left portion of our brain, but way back here. We're not done yet. We got to cover the rest of our brain. So,
but hang on a second. So with the tapping thing in body work, when you compress your cells, it releases an electrical charge. So it's one way that we release built up energy or stress is by compressing the cells. It releases that little bit of electricity,
cool.
and helps dial down your stress level.
Very cool.
Okay, so we've
done one.
Okay.
So
all right.
Pinky is. I'm going to put my thumb where the pinky is, and I'm going to just move up the back of my head. You notice my fingers are closed. They're not just all over the place. They're closed because we really want to think about integrating our brains.
Okay.
Big inhale in and out. And tap the head. Big inhale in and out. Tap the heart. And big inhale in and out and tap the gut brain, also known as the enteric brain.
So do you actually remember to do this when you're stressed out?
I did this right before the call.
Ah, there you go.
Practice call in this call, I did this.
Okay, cool.
Yep, yep. Another nice thing that you can, go to the bathroom because it takes about 1.5 minutes to do. Okay.
Did you used to have to like make note cards to remember that you should do this? Because sometimes I have to put things around so I remember self-care. That I remember these tools, because when I'm stressed out, I can't think about that. All I can think about is how stressed out I am, not what I can do that will make me feel less stressed out.
Exactly. Like you say, putting reminders, putting mementos, putting visual cues around to help you out. Yep. Always good.
To help remember some little micro things you can do to stay balanced when somebody's coming at you. Yeah. Have you ever done that in the middle of a fight? Like if somebody's, being aggressive or assertive with you, have you just started to tap? Have you just been like, oh, really? Thank you for telling me how you feel. That's wonderful. I really appreciate that. I'm so glad that you're sharing with me your intense, overwhelming, melodramatic, crazy emotion, because I really appreciate it.
That would be pretty amazing. But I've teeter tapped. I have not made it obvious that I have tapped, but I have put my mental emotion, I've put a mental awareness here of, oh, I'm covering there. And instead of my hand actually being up here, I tap with the intention of, okay, you can't see me right now, but my hand is underneath the table, but it's tapping.
But I'm tapping.
I'm going.
Well, the body doesn't know the difference between the things that we are focused on and imagining and the things that we actually do. So you can tap in your head while somebody's yelling at you. I remember one time when I was a kid, Dad got really mad at us and he was yelling at me in the car, and we're all in the car coming back from my grandmother's house. And I was sitting right behind him and he's yelling at me, in some crazy way. If I'd known to tap, I would have been tapping while trapped in that car, totally, freaking out that I'm being yelled at.
Exactly.
This is something that we should teach kindergartners, how to de-stress physically, to give them a better foundation in life.
And sometimes sometimes if it calls for it, I do teach. I think I've taught this as young as 1st grade.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay, so once we've gotten to the front, we cannot forget about our sides. So when we're talking, I moved up and I continued going all the way up here, right?
Okay.
Good, yawning, nice release. It's a good thing to release. And then we have to get the sides of our brain. But if our hands are on our sides, we have nothing to tap. We have no extra hand to tap. So you can...
Once again, I feel like I'm going to need my tinfoil hat.
You're your tinfoil hat. So I'm going to tap the head. And I'm going to remind it, hey, I want all of this primarily middle brain, emotional brain. I want all of that to connect. So then I use my other hand for the heart. Nice, big, deep breath in and out. And then I'll put it back before then I tap the belly.
Okay, so you just switch back and forth.
I do. So, but you really do want to cover your entire brain and then these two.
And if you can't actually do it because you'd look like, you were Looney Tunes and you can't quite, cover it up like looking like you're comfortable. Oh, well, wouldn't that be cool? You could be like, oh, yeah, I'm totally comfortable. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I totally get that. That's cool. Oh, really? Wow. I'm so surprised. You can kind of unobtrusively get this stuff in through these gestures.
Yes.
I wonder if by doing it, the person who's then yelling at you would be so befuddled and bemused, as to these nonchalant, gestures you're making. And I mean, the whole mirror thing, what we see is, our mirror cells react to. So do you think that tapping on yourself while somebody else is watching would have a positive effect on the person who's watching you?
Yes, that's called mirror neurons.
Okay, so if you want someone else to calm down, you can tap yourself.
Exactly. And there are times when
That's awesome.
One kid is just like bananas. I get the rest of us to all go into hookups.
Okay.
With the tongue on the roof of our mouth.
Okay.
And breathe. And that starts calming down the kid who is just losing his marbles.
So, okay. So if somebody's yelling at me,
yeah,
I can start tapping myself and doing, you know, this protocol, irregardless of whether they think I'm nuts or not.
Yeah.
But it theoretically, because the mirror neurons should start calming them down so that they're less aggressive and less stressed out. I wonder how I could just like seamlessly do this in my life, where I walk around tapping in order to keep everybody else around me calm. without
well, you
looking
do
nuts.
this by your presence, right? We know you.
That's true.
As a kindergarten teacher, if you walked in and you were like blah the whole class was blah, right?
Oh, they were that way anyways. There was nothing I could do. They were out of control. There was nothing I could do. I was so overwhelmed. I'm sorry. One against like 27 5-year-olds. It just, you know, I could tap all I wanted. I don't think it would have a big deal. I don't think it would help.
Talking about the mirror neurons, if you've ever done this is a very natural, like, oh my gosh.
So
yeah,
it's a Homer
2
Simpson
points right up here. They're called positive points. And those 2 points really help reconnect to the brain. Oh, one of my former students is on. She remembers hookups, I hope.
So if you want to feel better and you want to be unobtrusive about it,
yes.
you can kind of look like you're thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's far out, man. Yeah, that's so cool. And you could like sort of react like that.
Yeah. Or, you know.
Would the other person calm down too then? So if I did this as if I were paying attention, even though I probably wasn't interested, you know, but if I did this, it would potentially start to level them out and make them not be so nasty to me.
It has that possibility.
That is really cool. I love influencing other people.
Yeah, but the key is you really can't change them. You got to change yourself. Now they can watch you.
Right.
Oh, look, she's not being flustered at all. How nice. And and in the inside, you're going, oh, no, I'm going to bring myself back down. I'm going to bring myself calm, as opposed to, rah.
Can you do that one again?
The blah.
I love that. That was awesome.
Thanks.
Okay, so we did the upside down pace.
Yep.
And then we did what did you call that last thing?
Cortices. It comes from the
body
talk. Yep.
What else you got to keep people level? And do you know what time it is?
Actually, no, I don't, because
the clock's on your phone.
The clock's
I know, just like me.
The clock's on your.
Okay, well, we'll just keep talking until we're done. So what else you got for us?
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, you know, I could pull from yoga poses when we get tight and we spend a lot of our day over, you know, hunched, making sure that we stretch the opposite way. And if at night when our brain is like all blah, 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 and we can't calm down, getting into child's pose is amazing. Any forward bend where the head starts to be lower than the chin. Anytime you can get into that in a safe way, calms the central nervous system.
Really? So if you can get the top of your head below your chin, then your nervous system starts to calm down.
Yep. Forward folds, even if they're seated, would work.
Interesting.
Yeah, standing forward folds, child's pose in yoga. Yep, all of them.
Interesting. I wonder why people, when they get very sad or feel really disappointed or hit with a hard emotional blow, do that really end up with their head below their chin. I wonder why they do that. Just because it's a natural reflex, you think, to feel better?
I think so. Yeah.
You know, I've noticed a lot of things, you know, over the last few years especially, I've noticed a lot of things which are like natural reflexes that we do when we are stressed or confused. I mean, we do them without even thinking. And what it sounds like is a lot of those different things are our body's natural way of calming itself down and getting de-stressed. So even though, you know, we might just think that it's a weird side effect, you know, what people just do, it's actually our body trying to take care of itself and being very smart about it by having us go into a certain posture or a certain movement or put our hands on our heads, you know, when we're thinking, or things like that, or touching our cheek in order to, you know, calm ourselves down. That's really cool.
Definitely. I think you're spot on. I think we've lost the ability to, many of us are so out there that we've forgotten to pay attention to the signals that our body is giving us. And if we can pay attention to what signals our bodies, what our body is trying to tell us. And
so we can almost look at somebody too and see what their body posture is.
Oh yeah.
And their body posture will tell us what they're thinking or feeling, at least feeling.
And
because it'll naturally go into different postures, do you think?
Oh yes.
In order for self-care?
Yes, how people move throughout the world, whether how they stand, how they sit, how they move, all of that give clues to which developmental reflexes are integrated or not, which then, you know, people who tend to have these developmental reflexes off tend to then show up in the world like this, with these problems.
So give me one developmental reflex that, if not integrated or handled well, how it shows up when somebody's an adult and how it affects them.
Okay. There's many. The symmetrical tonic neck reflex.
Okay.
STNR. Sometimes I get this confused with ATNR. Okay, but I'm talking about the one, well, you turn and part of your body is bent, let's say a bent leg and a bent arm to the side that you're turned, and the other side is straight out. Okay? These are the
okay.
These are
like the thinker, like the statue, the thinker, with his head on his hand, and
but the other leg, so your left arm and your left leg would be straight.
Okay.
Think of like a fencer. A fencer has their lead arm bent and their
okay, I get it.
Okay, and the other side is straight, and you're turning towards your bent side.
Okay, so almost like a manly man from the Victorian era, you know, whereas his arm, I'm a manly man, you know, and his arm is on his fist is on his hip and his hands out, and you know, you never saw that at the Renaissance Fair?
It's not
like Men in Tights.
Not coming to me.
Okay. All right.
This shows up as the drivers who, when they go, oh, look what's over there, they turn the wheel as well.
Okay.
Instead of being able to go, oh, look, and turn back, their wheel starts to turn and they tend to have more accidents.
So they end up moving their whole body because that's just how they're used to moving.
Yes.
I know a lot of people who are super stiff that way. You know, they have to use their whole body to move. Are you saying part of that might be because some of their reflexes aren't integrated?
Yep.
It's not just because they're super stiff?
Yep.
So how do you get these reflexes integrated then, so that you don't have to work so hard with everything that you do and your body doesn't end up so stressed out and worn out from doing more than it needs to?
Sure. There's several different ways of going about doing it. A lot of people use isometric pressure. There are rhythmic movements that you can do. I would go see somebody who specializes in developmental reflexes, or get some of the books, sort of find your patterns yourself. If you wanted to do it yourself, you could find, you know, there are books on developmental reflex patterns. There's some great trainings out there. Blomberg's rhythmic movement training, Svetlana Moskatova's does really great things with infant developmental reflexes. C.C. Kester does great things with building blocks in infant developmental reflexes. And part of it is movement. A lot of times we become stiff, but then we stop moving, and then we just become more stiff. You know, it's that vicious cycle downward.
Yeah, yeah. Feldenkrais has a lot of work for integrating the body.
Yeah, yeah. So there's lots of different ways to help integrate some of those basic patterns.
Cool.
You could then come work with somebody like me who will then help you notice more and give you some things to practice at home to see if things are integrate more.
Okay, so they've got classes, or you can go see somebody who specializes in this, or you can grab a book from the library and start to look at some of the movements, especially if you feel like you're super stiff and you don't need to be. And when you start doing that, when you start getting, you know, when I first got into Feldenkrais, it was in college. And I took it because I needed some credits for my vocal music minor. But a lot of theater people were in that class too. And part of Feldenkrais was integrating all the movement so that you didn't have to work so hard in moving. And if you didn't have to work so hard, then you could use your energy for something else.
Right.
You know, you weren't using your energy feeling disjointed and having, you know, one part of your body work more than another. Instead, your whole body worked as a team, and then you could use the energy that you had to, let's say, stand up for yourself, or walk out the door and slam it, or to turn the car around and not go home. You know, you could use that extra energy to do something that might be nourishing, or help you really stand up for yourself.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, I'm thinking we might want to wrap up soon for the night.
Sounds good.
Was there anything else you wanted to add?
I think we've pretty much come full circle, that there's many things that you can do. And yeah, educate yourself, come to a class, work, you know, learn more about this cool stuff.
Okay, so when you start getting your body in a good place, then your mind gets in a good place, and your emotions get in a good place.
Yeah.
And you can actually break out of these ruts that we're sort of in.
Yes.
And start to move forward rather than feel so stuck.
Yeah, it's much easier to break out of a habit that you've always been doing if you're feeling strong and supported as you start down to this new path. Yep.
Great. So movement is a wonderful way to start creating those new neural connections.
Exactly.
Awesome. I love it. That's cool. So if you need some integration, send her a message, give her a call. Jeanné will point you in the right direction, or you can book a session with her, and she can help you get more integrated and point you in the right direction, especially if you've got people in your life who are toxic and draining you and exhausting you and wearing you out, and you can't get rid of them because you need them in your life because you need your job or whatever it may be. This is a way in order to not just cope and then watch yourself, you know, get more and more miserable every year. It's actually a way for you to take back your power and feel really good about yourself and start being the dominant personality in the narcissistic relationship. So then the narcissist goes away, or you get rid of them. one or the other. Cool. Well, awesome. I think that's it. So I thank you so much for being here and hanging out with me and talking about this stuff. I love it. I love it. I love it.
I'm so glad that you had me, Rita.
Cool. So I will see you later. Have a great night, okay?
You as well. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Bye, everybody. Good night.